That's a good question. I feel like that the newer generation is more driven by self success, not necessarily the success of the operation. That's why I feel like they're not as in tune with things such as benefits and retirement. That's one area that doesn't seem to be a caveat. That was a caveat for Gen X, right? Oh, I've
Hmm.
got a job with good benefits. They're more about how much does it pay, and again, am I being paid fairly for what I'm doing? And that shouldn't be taken as them not being loyal, but to them, their value system, I feel, because I mean, I'm not in that group, obviously, but their value system seems to be more about what's in it for me. How do I benefit from this? And is it fair to me? Not just what's best for the group. Is it fair to me? And so I think that's a big difference. And because again, going back to me, I will be that mule. I'll be that workhorse as long as it benefits the team. I'll take that heavier load if it's helping somebody else out. Um, so I think that they're more just their personal goals that they have set for themselves are focused on more within themselves and not the team. And I think that's where we get a little bit butthurt when we're talking about are they a good employee or aren't they a good employee? And again, I don't fault them. They're right in my opinion. Yes, the culture is fucked up. Yes, you should be paid more in most circumstances. There's some providers that shouldn't be paid what I was making in 1999. They're just not worth what they think they're worth. Um, but for the most part, we should be paid more. We should have better working conditions. I ask the question all the time: Why don't we have lunch breaks?
Some
Yeah.
services have it, but most 911s don't.
Yeah, it's they give us a UHU of like point 0.9 where you barely have time to go pee on shift and work, 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 work. We could totally have lunch breaks. It would cost them more money,
Hmm.
you know. But it's not that we can't. It's just that we haven't. It's always been that way.
So you actually bring up something interesting that I would love kind of your insight on. So Daniel and I, over the course of our careers, have made job changes, and it's never we've been fired. Sure, culture could be better at pretty much every service that we've ever worked for. Whenever we have made job changes, it has always been regarding like the benefit to our family life. We actually left one job that we were both at. We took a pay cut to go to a different service because it had better scheduling. It actually had pretty good benefits, but the primary reason was better scheduling and a better culture that fit our family. So I was at a town hall at one of the services that I worked for, and a longtime employee had been at said service for I think it was like 20 years or something, and had brought up that they had been hearing some of the new providers talking about, hey, if you work here for like 2 or 3 years and then go to another service for 2 or 3 years and then come back, you can end up with a pay raise. And the long-term provider was outraged, probably doesn't even describe what this person was, but was, yelling about the situation, saying that that is not loyalty, that that is the most fucked up thing that you can say. And, we don't have employees hardly ever, there are exceptions, hardly ever anymore that work 20 and 30 years at the same service. Mind you, turnover in EMS is now down to like 1 to 3 years. But point being, what do you two different sides of the spectrum. Like, I don't think Daniel and I are not loyal to any of the services that we've ever worked for. But the concept of, regardless of your life situation, you shouldn't leave because it decreases your loyalty or quality to that service, I just have a hard time agreeing with, but I don't even know what to say to this person regarding why my gut reaction is no.
Yeah, I feel like that ties right back into that generational differences. When you look at like the boomers would be all over us for that. That sounds like that's probably that generation of a person that you're describing there. That's exactly how they were raised. And all this starts literally from how we were raised So it can even be, not only when we were born, but what age were our parents when they had us. That makes a difference too,
Mm.
right?
I didn't
So
even
if,
think
if
about
you
age of
had
parent.
parents, yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, because my parents were young when I was born, right? So, but if I was born as a Gen X, but my parents were like in their late 30s or early 40s, which is rare in that time period. But now you think about how far back it was when they were raised, and that's still the values that they're pushing on to me. So from those 40s, 50s, 60s generation, it was all completely different. And so they do view things very differently when it comes to loyalty specifically. And I think that's why we're getting it wrong as leaders, because we don't know how to relate with that type of a generational gap, right? And,
Mhm.
and we've had a similar thing around here. Um, it is where you can leave a service and come back and make 5 or 10 more thousand dollars a year, and that causes problems within the system, getting out of the whole generational thing, but that
Mhm.
causes a lot of problems. We have folks who have been working there for 10 plus years currently in the service where I live. um, but if I was to go to work there now, I would go in making more than about 60% of the folks that work there, and I would be getting a $5,000 hiring bonus.
Mhm.
And that chaps people's asses up because
Mhm.
they work really hard. They run,
Mhm.
I don't know, they probably run 10 to 15 calls in 12 hours per truck.
Mhm.
So they really get it handed to them. And so I can understand being in that seat, seeing somebody new come in and they're making more. How do you work through that? That's a hard thing as a leader, even if you are a good leader. How do you work through that? How do you keep your culture from eat from them eating it up?
I would definitely think that hourly pay should be, based on tenure, years of service, all the rest of it. Now, obviously, you can't argue hiring bonuses. On the leadership side, I do have another question, something that I've heard come up. So when you have, a hierarchy of leadership, a director, your operations directors or, assistant directors, et cetera, and then your field staff, um, what do you think is the best way to handle when, upper management is genuinely working on something, but they might not be telling field staff what is coming because it's not set in stone yet? So the field staff are like, fuck you, you're not doing anything. When there is so much going, behind the curtain, at what point do you or do you not share? Because there's a lot of field staff that are like, fuck you, you're a horrible leader. When actually it's like, I don't think you understand what we are trying to do, but also don't want to share too far ahead of time because then if it doesn't come to fruition, then field staff are going to be like, well, fuck you anyways. I'm sure it's probably a rock and a hard place, but do you have any insight?
Yeah, that is a hard one, and if you haven't been in that position before, God bless you. I mean, because it's one of the most challenging things as a leader when you want to be truthful and honest with your field staff, but there are things that you can't just throw out there for many reasons. Like you said, I don't want to tell them one thing and then it doesn't come to fruition, and then that causes a whole nother problem. Um, but I think that it starts with just being open and honest about everything else. If we will start that relationship being open and honest, you get that trust and that understanding. We can still have the conversation. We can talk about there's so many things that we're working on that I'm trying to get in place for you. I can't give out all the details yet, but I promise you we're working on some stuff. That's a little more believable. When it's not believable is when you don't have that open communication. Everything that you do say is a lie. You don't follow through with the things that you say you're going to do. So, therefore, people write their own narrative and they form their own opinions, and you back yourself up
Mhm.
into a corner. So, it really starts from not just dealing with that particular thing. How do we deal with the things that I can't necessarily tell my people? It starts from the very beginning. Did I put myself in a position of honesty and open communication out the gate with my people. It's almost like, you interview for a job before you ever get to apply for the position. So on a day-to-day basis, you're interviewing. You don't change just because you get a position, or you don't change if you've ever watched promotional processes, look how people try to change how they act during the promotional process. We call your bullshit. I've watched you for 2 years. I know who you are. You're just putting on a horse and pony show trying to get a fucking promotion. That's what you're doing. And that's why I feel like it's a disadvantage to promote internally for those administrative positions. I feel like we have too many skeletons in the closets a lot of times to be able to effectively lead at the top position if we have not done the things at the field level. Because people don't forget that shit. Just because you promoted up, if you're not coming having conversations, now we all fuck up. But if we're not owning that before I get the position and saying, hey, you know what? 10 years ago, I was an arrogant asshole. I had no clue how to do leadership. But now I'm showing you day to day that I'm a different person without the promotion. But, that's a disadvantage. And I've seen that cost people. They get these promotions, yes. But now so many people has shit on me.
Mm-hmm.
How do they end up acting? So I feel like it all goes back to just how we are communicating and being honest and upfront with our people. If we're lying about everything or not being a good communicator, because you mentioned earlier the why, that's a Simon Sinek. Now, he's got a book on It Starts With Why. That's a good book. And yet, so if we're not addressing that why to our people, they're going to write their own narratives, and that causes you even more problems, right? So I think that's where it starts. There's always going to be things that you just can't give certain details about certain things going on, especially one of the big ones when it comes down to personnel issues, right? If I deal with a personnel problem, I would love to tell you what I did for that, but because I can't tell you, you're making up your own stuff. Even we didn't do anything, and they just, yeah. So that also goes back to, does your people believe in you and trust you? They'll believe it's been taken care of instead of, oh, they just didn't do shit because that's his buddy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For a leader, especially at the higher up directors and everything. Now, obviously, we all know that there are certain directors that are better than others, certain, shift supervisors that are better than others. But a frequent complaint that we've heard across multiple different agencies is, the director in particular, or, high level operations managers are not visible to field staff. And my question is, some of these, upper management do get on trucks and run calls, not as often as they would like. What kind of visibility is beneficial for a leader? Because, like, on one side, sure, the field staff they just sit in their offices and don't do anything. But then on the other side, if you're behind the curtain, you're like, holy fuck, I don't know how this person is functioning, much less one day a month getting on a truck because their plate is so full. What kind of visibility is beneficial for field staff, especially the higher up the chain?
Yeah. And, I think that some of that depends on size of organization, right? You've got span of control, obviously. But there still needs to be a certain level of interaction. If I'm going to be that executive leader, that chief level position, if I'm talking about a mid-sized service where I've got less than 100 employees, I should probably be able to get some FaceTime in once a month, right? And that may be very brief. One friend of mine uses the example of when he comes into work, he makes it a habit to go all the way around the exterior of the building. And because when he comes to work, all of the crews are checking their trucks, washing trucks, whatever the case may be. So it gives him an opportunity to just show face, say hello, maybe grab a brush and take a swipe or two at a truck, and then go on. And, you've got that little bit of interaction. And if you're doing that every day, by the end of the month, you're probably interacting with all of your people. And again, you don't have time or the ability to have deep, in-depth conversations with every one of your employees. But I should be able to know, especially if there are major events in my employees' lives, right? I should know that, hey, Brad got engaged. If I'm not out and about, I'm not going to know these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the bad things, if there's sickness in the family or death or anything like that, I should be visible more than just these big events, but I
Mm-hmm.
should definitely be able to know when these things happen. So if I'm just regularly doing something like David says he does, where he just goes around the building every morning, and it might just be that he's walking around the building and somebody didn't turn the water hose off and just turning the water hose off, or just picking up a piece of trash. A lot of these things go a long ways because I promise you, somebody's watching the chief. Somebody watched him pick up that piece of trash. Somebody watched him turn off that water hose. So that goes back to, are we leading by example? Are we coming out and having these small conversations? Hey, what do you need? I'll run get some equipment for you if you're restocking your truck. Little things go a long ways. And if we can have those little conversations, my people are going to be more comfortable coming and talking to me when they have a hard conversation. And I want my people coming to talk to me. And so I feel like that's where it begins. I think another thing that could be done is I think we could do a better job mentoring our people. If we're having these conversations and we know that we've got folks who are interested in going into this world, why don't we mentor them and let them shadow us a little bit? What would it hurt to have an employee shadow the chief for a day? And then because that's planting seeds, they're going to go back out and say, man, let me tell you how much shit that man did today. I had no clue that he had to do 15 meetings and had to sign 20 freaking pages of papers, whatever, and that may be something that interests them, or it may tell them they don't want to do the administrative stuff because you don't get it until you sit on that side of the desk. You don't understand all of the craziness that goes on behind the curtain.
So obviously what we were talking about is in the context of leaders who want to improve, who want to do well and connect with their people. What do we do about the good people who are stuck in places that are saturated with the good old boy system? They don't have the chance to move up and make a difference. So how practically do these people deal with that good old boy system to try to fix things without destroying the service as a whole?
That one's hard, right? The good old boy system is alive and well, and it takes a lot. And I honestly don't know that there is an answer for that in some places. It is so strong. It's so strong in some organizations that, I mean, I've even been a victim of that type of a system. And as bad as I hate to say that, sometimes you have to just pick your battles and choose which ones aren't even worth fighting and just move on.
Mm-hmm.
That has been something that's been really hard for me in my career because I've always wanted to be a fixer. I think that's what made me a great paramedic is I see a problem and I want to fix it, right? Oh, did I hit a nerve? Um, and so that's something. I mean, I even struggled in marriages because of that. Because have you want me to fix it? I can tell you how to fix it. That's just how I'm wired to be. So apparently we have something in common.
I told you he's like me in a lot of ways.
Are you a lawnmower too?
We'll explain that in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I feel like that's what makes us great at what we do, And so to come into a situation where it's obvious, everybody sees it, right? Everybody knows exactly what's going on. It's not a secret that this is what it is. But yet nobody does anything about it. And how dare you to question our integrity and what we're doing?
Oh my God!
And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's so obvious, and it just ends up being one of those things where you just got to say, you know what, fuck it, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Been there, done that.
Got a couple of T-shirts with it too.
And that was really hard, man, because I want to fix it. I'm like, this is a fixable thing. We can work through this. And then now, 10, 12, 15 years later, that same service is still that way. And they're over here saying, I don't understand why we can't keep employees. Here, we'll give them $5,000 sign-on bonus.
Seriously. They do their time and then
But then they still don't stay. So it's not always about money.
No. Money is just a Band-Aid.
So the part of the reason we're laughing so much. So I am also a Mr. Fix-It about everything in life.
That's in all uppercase letters.
Yeah. And this is the things I blame my father for, because my father was just anyway. But we heard this analogy of a lawnmower and a flower. Michelle is anything but a delicate flower. But the analogy is, I'm a lawnmower, so when there's a problem, I'm just going to mow right over it. And the flower's like, wait a minute, what? What are you doing? And that's, usually what we deal with. I mean, I have a fairly, I don't know if I'd say controversial stance on this, but I kind of go the route of, yes, you should always try to work within the system. Try to fix the system as best you can, obviously within the confines of ethics and morality. That's a given. But, I have a little Machiavellian streak in me that says, well, if the system is so broken that using the system is not going to make it better, sometimes you got to play games, because look at the good old boy system. They're not operating with any ethics at all.
No.
They are anti-ethical. So unfortunately, it's almost like a street fight. Like, when there's a street fight, it's every man and woman for himself. You kind of got to do what you got to do.
Sometimes you got to be petty.
Sometimes you got to.
Sorry.
The stories I could tell.
Yes.
But now I agree with you. It is the way to do that, though, is you have to pick your battles. Because if you fight every single battle that comes your way, you are going to wear yourself out. And the good old boy system is stronger than that. It will outlast you 100% if that's the way you deal with it.
That's right.
Now, I think that there are a lot of tools in the toolbox that can be utilized by street level people to address these issues, because what's something we have now that we didn't have in the 80s and the 90s is visibility. You have a lot of social media, you have a lot of communication. The whole TikTok and YouTube and all of that has connected so many people like us, because we're all popping up and saying, hey, there's a problem. We need to deal with this. And we're all talking to each other now. So the good old boy system can't hide for much longer. But I don't know if because you have a lot more extensive history in leadership training and so forth, if there is if there's something that we're missing on how to deal with that, I guess was more the drive of the question. So tell us, I guess, just to kind of wrap up here, kind of give us a good plug for the conference. Tell people what they can expect, for the mental wellness summit. What are the things that you are looking to bring on, the kinds of people that, people may recognize, whatever you're willing to disclose to everybody.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I want everybody to get out of this is it's not your regular conference. Like we talked about early in the conversation, it's always the same thing over and over and over. It's not that kind of a show. I'm really excited that this is a lot of people that are truly passionate about the area, the space that we're in, that we're going to be talking about. I'm really excited that this is not just folks showing up for self. It's going to be motivational and educational, I feel, as we work on healthy coping. I think that's something all of us can be a little better with. We're gonna do things differently. It's gonna be a completely casual thing. I'm refusing to let in any business attire. This is not. You don't come in here with a necktie and some slacks or none of that shit. I've got, my Jimmy Buffett dressed security guards are not going to let that kind of shit in the room.
I like
So
it.
this is totally a be yourself event, because I get tired of us having to play the part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm tired of being told this is what this looks like. Dan, you've probably had conversations like I have where what is professional and what's not professional.
Yep.
And,
I don't know what you're talking about there.
You should
you
try
know,
it a little bit harder to convince them.
Not sure.
so everybody has their own view on what professionalism looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I really just want everybody to show up and be themselves and take something away that can make them be a better human, and make them take better care of themselves. And we're going to have a DJ. There's a DJ that'll be playing both days in between sets. So we're going to have the hall, the large hall space that we'll have. We'll have some dancing and have some good times in between with the vendors and stuff. We're going to
You need
have
more alcohol for that.
we're going to have an evening social on Thursday night. I've not advertised this yet. But Thursday night we will have an acoustic show that'll be played, and we'll just have a little networking social. But it's going to be a mocktail event. I know some of us do prefer cocktails, but I want to show that even though I too enjoy alcohol, I have enjoyed it a little too much in my past. I'm very thankful that I control that way better these days, and I don't lean towards alcohol to help with my coping anymore. But I want to show that we can have a really good time without alcohol. I want to show that we can get together and have some non-alcoholic drinks and have a really good time. A local guy to me from my home county of Robeson County, Rob Cole. He's on The Voice right now on Michael Bublé's team. He's going to be doing an acoustic set for us for that event. So that'll be a good time. And then we've got some really big names. I've already put out that the Saudi paramedic's going to be coming. He's pretty big on TikTok. You guys probably know of him. He's starting to blow up. He just went to EMS World. So did Sophie Fuller, paramedic Sophie. So she'll be here too. You guys familiar with Shade Tree Cardiology, Greg Carr?
Oh yeah.
So he's going to be there. The opening keynote is going to be Tom Rizzo. So from On Patrol Live. So he is a captain with Howell Police Department in New Jersey. He teaches at Rutgers University, and he does a really good mental wellness presentation. So he'll be our opening keynote. I haven't put that out yet. I'll put that out on November 1st, but that's first for you guys to hear about that. And it's going to be a really awesome time together, man. I'm just super excited for it to get here. I've met so many people just like you guys. And I'm really excited to be able to get in a room with all these people that are doing so many good things.
Well, we are ecstatic about it. This is the exact kind of stuff we've wanted to see. And
yeah, I know, right?
We are glad that you're doing it. I hope that we can collaborate and get something like that down here too.
Very much so.
Because, like you said, this isn't just a single state thing. This is all of us thing.
That's right. Yeah, right now I think we'll have representatives from, 7 different states.
That's amazing.
So yeah. So I think there's folks from 7 different states that'll be here presenting. So it's really cool. I'm hoping that we can expand this out to other places. I'm hoping to make this sort of the foundational footprint to be able to show that, hey, we can take this and grow this wherever. All it takes is a group of people who are dedicated to it, that wants to see it happen. And that would be really cool to be able to look next year and see that we planted a seed and we're able to move over to different places. So we would love that. So super excited, man. We're going to have that. And I just released a book. So I'm going to have my book there to to sort of promote the book a little bit. So it's going to be a good time.
That's great. I want a copy. I'm a book whore.
Yeah, you'll get a copy. Yeah, of course. Of course.
Where can people find, all the information about both what you're doing, but also about the conference itself?
Okay, so the easiest way to find things is to go into www.pierceprovisions.com, and that has everything from the book is on there in the shop, the foundation page. So the Pierce Foundation is our nonprofit that we started earlier this year to be able to do the summit and to be able to support first responders on their journey, whether if it's financially or through education, to help them with their wellness. We did that. So all that information, that's the landing spot to find all that good stuff.
Beautiful.
Jinx,
Jinx,
you owe me a
Minnesota.
Damn it.
Well, Brad, thank you very much for your time. Absolutely love talking with
I
you.
appreciate you guys spending some time with me this afternoon.
Absolutely.
And we will see you very soon. Looking forward to it.
I can't wait,
Bye.
man. It's going to be a really good time. Thank y'all so much, man.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on YouTube at paramedicaf, or you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify at the Paramedic AF Show. You can catch up on the Daily Debrief, kind of a sub-show within the Paramedic AF Show, or you can watch our full-length episodes, including interviews and discussions on leadership, culture, personal wellness, mental health, everything related to daily life in EMS. Make sure you hit like and subscribe.